It was 7 a.m., and snowflakes clung to Daniel Carter's coat as he pulled into the Milwaukee Elementary School parking lot. The morning air was sharp, biting at his cheeks as he stepped out of the car, the cold wind making his breath visible in front of him. He had made a habit of arriving early, before the chaos, before the rush of children and the buzz of the school day. He liked the quiet moments, coffee in hand, as the world slowly woke up around him. But this morning, something felt different. His eyes scanned the street as he adjusted the collar of his coat, the weight of the cold starting to seep through the fabric. It was then that he noticed the figure at the bus stop across the street, a small German shepherd puppy, completely still, as if frozen in time. The snowflakes clung to his fur, and he didn't move even when a gust of wind passed by. Daniel hesitated for a moment, wondering if the puppy was just waiting for a ride or if something else was wrong. But as he stared at the dog, something in his gut twisted. The puppy was alone, shivering, and the way he sat made it clear he wasn't just waiting for a bus. Crossing the street, Daniel's footsteps crunched softly in the snow. His eyes never left the small puppy, who hadn't even acknowledged his approach. The closer Daniel got, the more his heart tightened. The puppy's fur was soaked, matted in places from the snow, and his small body looked fragile in the cold. When he was a few steps away, Daniel saw a flash of blue, a child's scarf wrapped around the puppy's neck. With a soft sigh, Daniel bent down, his hands reaching toward the trembling puppy. His fingers brushed against the soft, damp fur, and he couldn't help but notice how trusting the dog was. It was as if the puppy had been waiting for someone, and that someone was Daniel. Then, something caught his eye, a folded note tucked beneath the scarf. He gently reached for it, feeling the cold paper against his fingers, and unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was simple, the words brief, but the message was clear. His name is Max. He's kind. Please take care of him. No signature, no contact information, just a plea for help. The note seemed to be the last trace of whoever had once loved this dog, and now it was Daniel's responsibility. His heart squeezed as he looked at the puppy again. Max, Daniel thought. The name felt like it belonged to the dog. He could see the trust in Max's eyes, the silent plea for help. As if on cue, Max raised his head slightly, his deep brown eyes locking onto Daniel's. There was no fear, no hesitance, just pure silent trust. And in that moment, Daniel made a decision. He picked up the small puppy, cradling him gently in his arms. Max didn't whine, didn't squirm. He just leaned into Daniel as if he already knew that he was safe. "It's okay," Daniel whispered, more to himself than to Max. The snowflakes continued to fall around them, each one landing like a soft promise of change. As Daniel crossed back to his car, Max nestled closer, his warmth providing a strange comfort in the midst of the icy cold. Daniel's chest tightened, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this small act, this moment of connection, was the beginning of something far more significant. Max's deep brown eyes never left Daniel's face, and Daniel felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. He knew deep down that this was just the start of a story that was still unfolding. Daniel brought Max into his classroom, wrapping him in an old fleece blanket. The puppy didn't whine, just pressed close, as if afraid Daniel might vanish. Max was tiny, his shivering body barely filling the blanket. Daniel glanced down at the puppy, his heart heavy with the unspoken history Max had carried with him. For now he was safe. As the students trickled into the classroom, they immediately noticed the puppy. "Is that a dog?" one child asked wide-eyed. "Yes, this is Max," Daniel said, smiling softly. "He'll be with us for a while." Max, at first unsure, gradually warmed up to the children. He accepted gentle strokes and quiet voices, his tail twitching in response. The children were drawn to him, and Max, in turn, seemed to draw a quiet sense of calm from the chaos of the classroom. During lunchtime, Max stayed close to Daniel's desk, content to watch the room. The noise didn't bother him. Instead, he lay down on the blanket, content and calm. Daniel couldn't help but notice how still Max was compared to the world around him. It was like the puppy was trying to understand something that everyone else had missed. Later, Daniel called animal control. "Hi, I found a dog, a German Shepherd. There's no sign of anyone looking for him." The response from animal control was impersonal. "No reports of a missing dog, sir. You can leave him with us." But Daniel hesitated. Something inside him didn't feel right. Max needed more than just a shelter. He needed a home. By the end of the school day, Daniel found himself lost in thought. Max was still curled up by his desk, eyes watching him. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that their meeting had a deeper meaning. Maybe it was the way Max looked at him, or the way he trusted without hesitation. Either way, it felt like destiny. That night, as Daniel settled into bed, Max rested by his side. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel alone. The soft sound of Max's breathing reminded him that life, despite its unpredictability, still had moments of quiet, unexpected peace. The next morning, the classroom felt different. Max had settled into his new role with ease. As soon as the bell rang, the students rushed in, but instead of the usual noise and chaos, they all seemed to slow down when they saw Max curled up by Daniel's desk. They greeted him quietly with soft voices, as if they instinctively knew this puppy wasn't just any dog. Max responded to each child in his own way. When shy Emily, usually hesitant to speak, sat next to him, Max lifted his head, offering her a soft nudge. Emily hesitated, but then ran her fingers gently through his fur. Her smile came slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, as if Max had unlocked a piece of her she had kept hidden. Daniel watched, amazed. He had read about therapy dogs, but seeing it in real time was something else entirely. Max wasn't just a dog. He was a bridge between barriers Daniel had never noticed before. Children who had once kept to themselves now seemed to draw closer to Max, sharing stories with him in hushed tones. At lunch, one of his students, Noah, who usually ate alone, asked if Max could sit next to him. Daniel nodded, and Noah, unsure at first, then whispered secrets to the puppy, as though Max understood. That afternoon, Daniel called a local shelter to see if anyone had reported a missing dog. "Hi, I found a German Shepherd," Daniel said, his voice firm but kind. "Is there anyone looking for him?" The shelter worker checked the records. "No reports yet. If you want, we can keep an eye out for him." But Daniel wasn't sure. The bond he was forming with Max felt too strong to let go easily. Still, he didn't know what else to do. He hung up, unsure of the next steps, but resolute in the fact that Max belonged somewhere, whether it was with him or someone else. The school day ended and the students left, but Max didn't move from his spot. He simply lay there, watching the door as if waiting for someone. Daniel didn't know if Max was waiting for something or someone, but his presence was undeniable. It felt like the puppy had something to teach him, perhaps patience or the importance of simply being there. That night, as Daniel lay in bed, Max curled up beside him. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. Max's trust had come so easily. He hadn't hesitated to lean into Daniel's presence, to trust him from the first moment they met. Daniel found himself wondering, what had this dog gone through to get here? What kind of journey had led Max to him? And as Daniel drifted off to sleep, Max's gentle breathing was a reminder that, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The following week, something unexpected happened. Max had become more than just a companion to Daniel. He was now the heart of the classroom. Every morning, the students rushed in with a single goal: finding Max. The puppy greeted each child with a wagging tail, allowing them to pet him or just sit next to him for a while. It wasn't just about the kids getting their turn to interact with him. It was the way Max calmed the entire room. A subtle energy filled the space, one that only a dog like him could create. Daniel noticed how even the most restless students, those who struggled to focus, now settled more easily, their energy softened by Max's gentle presence. There was a particular quiet around him, as if everyone instinctively knew that Max was here to help. But Daniel also began to see something else. Max was teaching him too. One morning, while Daniel was setting up for the day, he noticed a boy standing by the door. It was Ethan, a student who had been a bit of an enigma. He was quiet, withdrawn, and had always kept to himself. But that morning, Ethan's eyes were drawn to Max, his gaze lingering on the puppy, as if Max could answer something he didn't know how to ask. Daniel smiled and waved Ethan over. "Want to meet Max?" he asked gently. Ethan nodded, but as he approached, he hesitated. The puppy was on the floor, stretched out in the sunbeam that streamed through the window. When Ethan knelt beside him, Max's tail flicked, and the puppy lifted his head, as if sensing the boy's need. "He's so calm," Ethan murmured, his voice softer than usual. Daniel watched as Max crawled closer to Ethan, his eyes bright and trusting. Max lay his head on the boy's knee, just as he had done with so many others. Ethan's fingers slowly brushed through Max's fur, and for the first time, Daniel saw something in Ethan's eyes: hope. Max had a way of bringing out parts of people that they often kept hidden, even from themselves. That afternoon, Daniel received a call from a local shelter. "Hi, Mr. Carter. We received a report of a missing dog, a German Shepherd. We think he may be your dog." Daniel's stomach tightened. Is there a way to trace the owner? They confirmed they were trying to locate the owner, but nothing was certain. Daniel was torn. He didn't want to let Max go, but he also didn't want to stand in the way of what was right. The shelter said they'd give him time, but there was always the lingering doubt that someone out there was searching for Max. Later that day, as Daniel looked over the notes from class, Ethan approached him. "Mr. Carter," he began, his voice shaky. I wanted to talk about Max." Daniel looked up, a little surprised. "What's on your mind?" Ethan hesitated, then looked down at Max, still resting at Daniel's feet. I used to have a dog. His name was Buddy. He was everything to me. But we had to move, and we couldn't take him with us. I miss him." Daniel's heart sank. He hadn't realized how deeply Ethan's situation had affected him. Losing a pet, especially one as loyal as Max, left an invisible wound that only time could heal. Daniel knelt beside Ethan, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Max can't replace Buddy," he said softly, "but he's here for you, and for everyone else." Ethan nodded, the tears in his eyes a silent acknowledgement of the pain he carried. As the school day ended, Max stood up and walked over to Ethan. The puppy nuzzled Ethan's hand, as if understanding the boy's sorrow. Max's eyes met Daniel's for a brief moment, and Daniel knew Max wasn't just here to comfort children. He was here to heal old wounds, ones that even the best intentions couldn't erase. That night, as Daniel settled into bed, Max curled up beside him, just as he had done every night since their first meeting. Daniel looked down at the dog, the warmth of his body providing a sense of calm. He couldn't explain why Max was with him, but it felt like the puppy had been sent for a reason. Max had brought a quiet peace to Daniel's life, a peace that had been absent for too long. As he closed his eyes, Daniel thought about Ethan's words. Maybe Max had been a missing piece for more than just him. He was becoming a symbol of hope for the entire community. A reminder that no matter how much we try to leave behind, there's always something, or someone, waiting to show us the way forward. The next few days passed in a blur of uncertainty and anticipation. The shelter had confirmed that Max had been reported missing, but there was no clear indication of whether his original owner was looking for him. Daniel spent hours thinking about the situation, torn between his growing attachment to the puppy and the knowledge that Max might belong to someone else. Every morning, as Max greeted the children at school, Daniel felt a pang of guilt. The way the kids adored Max, how he seemed to bring light into their world. It felt like Max was already home, like he had a purpose here that couldn't be ignored. Yet, the possibility of an owner out there still loomed in Daniel's mind. It was Thursday afternoon when Daniel received a call from the shelter again. "Mr. Carter, we've tracked down the owner," the voice on the other end said. "It's a boy named Ethan. His family moved and they couldn't take Max with them. He's been having a hard time letting go." Daniel's heart clenched at the mention of Ethan's name. Ethan had told him about Buddy, his previous dog, and how much he missed him. And now here was Max, possibly the same dog Ethan had loved so much, now standing before Daniel, offering him comfort in a way that words couldn't. Later that afternoon, Daniel met Ethan at the school playground. Ethan stood by the fence, his hands stuffed into his coat pockets, his shoulders hunched against the chill. He looked more mature than the boy Daniel had seen just a few days ago, the edges of his sadness hardening into something deeper. "Hey, Ethan," Daniel called gently, walking up to him. "How have you been?" Ethan glanced up, his eyes catching Daniel's. "I'm okay," he muttered, but his voice trembled. I miss Max." Daniel crouched down beside Ethan, looking him in the eyes. "You know, Max has really made a difference around here. He's helped a lot of kids, comforted them when they were sad, brought out the best in them," Daniel explained. Ethan swallowed, his lips pressing into a thin line. "I know. I saw him in class once. He's happy there, right? He's helping other people." Daniel nodded, unsure of what to say next. He couldn't deny how much Max had already become part of the school, part of their lives. But he also knew that Max's true owner was standing right in front of him, and it was time to face the reality of that. "I think Max has found his purpose," Daniel said softly. "And I think that purpose is bigger than us. He's made a difference here, Ethan." The boy's eyes welled up. "But he was mine first," Ethan whispered, the weight of his words settling between them. "I don't know how to let him go. I've never had to give up something I loved so much." Daniel's chest tightened. He had never thought about it like that. A about the grief that comes with letting go of a pet you've loved so deeply. It was an unspoken bond, one that was hard to break, even when the right thing to do seemed so clear. Max, sensing the tension, wandered over to the two of them. He nuzzled Ethan's hand, his soft eyes meeting the boy's with the same unconditional affection he had always shown. Max's tail wagged gently, as though urging Ethan to make the choice that would bring them both peace. Ethan sank to his knees, pulling Max close, burying his face in the puppy's fur. "I don't want to let go," he whispered. Daniel stood back, giving them a moment of privacy. He could see how much Ethan loved Max, how deeply their bond ran. But at the same time, he knew that Max had found something here, something important. And as much as Daniel wanted to keep Max by his side, he couldn't ignore the fact that Max had been placed in his life for a reason. "Maybe there's a way for Max to have both," Daniel said finally, kneeling beside them. Ethan looked up, his eyes filled with both hope and hesitation. "What do you mean?" "Well, Max has a purpose here," Daniel explained. "He's helping kids, changing lives. But that doesn't mean he has to leave you. I think we can find a way to keep him in our lives and still make sure he's there for you when you need him." Ethan sniffled, a small hopeful smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "You'd really do that? You'd let me see him?" Daniel nodded, a warmth spreading through him as he made the decision. "I think that's what Max would want too. He's not just a pet. He's a healer, and he's brought something special to this place. But he's also a part of your life, Ethan. And I believe there's a way for both of us to honor that." Ethan wiped his eyes, his heart lightening as he hugged Max tightly. "Thank you," he whispered. Max, ever the wise and gentle soul, licked Ethan's cheek, then turned his gaze to Daniel as if to say, "This is right." In that moment, Daniel realized something important. Sometimes, love isn't about keeping someone to yourself. It's about recognizing their purpose and helping them fulfill it, no matter how much it hurts. And in that quiet moment, Daniel knew that Max had already done what he was meant to do. He had brought healing to both of their lives, in ways neither of them could have imagined. Years passed, but the memory of Max never faded. Daniel had continued to teach, his classroom now decorated with little mementos from Max's time there. Pictures drawn by the children, thank you notes from parents, and even a framed certificate recognizing Max as a certified therapy dog. Every time he passed by the bus stop where he had first found Max, he couldn't help but smile, remembering the puppy's trusting eyes and the quiet plea of that note tucked beneath his scarf. Max had touched so many lives, and though he had started with Ethan, he had created a bond with everyone who met him. Daniel often visited Ethan, who had grown into a kind and thoughtful young man with a smile that was wider and brighter than when he was just a boy. The visits had become a tradition. On the anniversary of the day Max had been left at the bus stop, Ethan and Daniel would take Max's old scarf to the park. They would sit on a bench together, and Max, now older, his fur peppered with gray, would lie contentedly at their feet. It was as if he understood that the day was special, that it was a celebration of the love and the lives he had changed. And Max's legacy wasn't just one of healing. He had shown Daniel that love wasn't confined to one person, one family, or one home. It could stretch across time, touch hearts, and inspire change. One day, while walking Max through the park, Daniel noticed a young boy sitting alone on a swing, looking lost in thought. Max, despite his age, trotted over to the boy, nudging his hand with his nose. The boy blinked in surprise and then smiled, his eyes lighting up with something Daniel had seen 100 times before, the comfort that only Max could offer. Daniel sat beside the boy, watching as Max lay his head on the boy's lap. The boy's hands hesitantly stroked Max's fur, and Daniel could see the weight lifting off the child's shoulders. In that moment, Daniel realized the truth. Max wasn't just a dog who had changed his life. He had changed the lives of everyone he met. His story wasn't about a rescue. It was about love given freely and received in ways no one could ever fully explain. And as the wind gently blew the autumn leaves around them, Daniel knew that Max had left a mark, not just on their hearts, but on the world itself. Max had been a gift to them all, teaching them how to love, how to heal, and how to never let go of what mattered. Max's story would live on in every child he helped, in every person who'd shared a moment of comfort with him, in every heart that had been touched by his gentle presence. And Daniel? Well, Daniel would continue to teach, to share Max's story, and to remember that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is the freedom to be loved. Because in the end, love is the one thing that never truly lets go.